cable television market is rapidly shrinking with Hulu and Netflix and Amazon Prime and all this individualized watch it when I want is shrinking the market. So in many ways, this acquisition, Time Warner Comcast acquisition, represents that acknowledgement by the market forces in the marketplace. The marketplace is shrinking, so the number of profferers of that market commodity are going to shrink and draw down. It's much better to do it this way than to wait until somebody goes bankrupt. This is the marketplace equivalent of thinning the herd. Let's let Time Warner and Comcast come together because there's not enough food for a Comcast and a Time Warner. Clearly, the market has determined that this is a viable option. The government coming in and saying, no, it's not, means that they think they know better than Comcast and Time Warner what's going on in the cable and internet sphere. I would argue they probably don't. When the government gets into the predicting business, they usually do very, very poorly. Hello, the end of the internet being AOL Time Warner. No, it was the end of AOL. So, and to almost Time Warner. So, when the government predicts, not so good. Much better to let the industry players look at the landscape, make the determination, and say, okay, this needs to happen, this acquisition needs to happen, etc. Comcast came out with that big long list of like preemptory concessions. We'll do all this if you approve our merger. I hope that's a lot more than I'd offered, and I hope that's the end point. I hope that's not the beginning of negotiations with the government where they say, okay, you're giving up 55, well, we want 112. For instance, the consumer interest groups wanting to broaden as maximally as possible the net neutrality definition. Netflix wants peering agreements to be a net neutrality violation. They don't want to pay for being bandwidth hogs. Thankfully, Chairman Tom Wheeler at the Federal Communications Commission, the SEC, has said that ain't a net neutrality violation. Here's hoping he realizes how damaging net neutrality is in toto and doesn't take a third bite at the apple after the SEC has unanimously struck out twice, trying to impose it twice before. The World Wide Web is a great name in a lot of ways, and one web that exists is the web of competition. Everybody's competing at each other from all these acute angles. It's not just head up Time Warner versus Comcast. It's Time Warner and Comcast versus AT&T versus Dish. All these different platforms, all these different delivery devices, all these different options. The marketplace is flourishing. And these people that say it's a competition problem, one, don't understand that they're not in the same cities, and two, only look at hardline broadband and see, somehow, for reasons that surpass any reasonable reality-based understanding, dismiss all the other options. One, they're all viable options, and two, they're competitive speed-wise. Certainly to the degree where the speed people need. Not everybody is downloading 20 movies a day. So not everybody needs dramatically increased speeds. We have all these different options. We're developing new ones. There's probably going to be, 10 years from now, would anyone be surprised if there are going to be 2 or 3 completely new options we haven't even dreamed up yet? No, I wouldn't. So, again, the marketplace is developing in a web-like fashion in 50 different acute angles. We can't see it coming. The engineers who are trying to design it can't see it all coming. Do we think bureaucrats in the government can see what's coming and make determinations and rule out this option or that option or impose this regulation or that regulation? They're the least capable of anybody we just discussed to make those determinations. So please, let it go. It's been going just fine. There's no reason to insert yourself when you know least about it than anyone in the discussion. The cable television industry is shrinking because of all these individualistic choices. You can watch your show on your iPad through Hulu, which has nothing to do with cable. And everybody wants it more individualized because if you can't, the problem with traditional programming is, if you're not home at 8 o'clock on Thursday, you missed that show. It's not the channel that matters, it's the content coming through the channel. The content creators are the ones with the power, and that's not even counting the ridiculously lopsided laws that exist that need to be pulled out root and branch so we can actually have a free market in those negotiations. To say that, one, they're in a dominant position on television when television's dying. Okay, fine. You have a much better suite on the Titanic. And two, even in the negotiations of the shrinking marketplace, it's always the content providers that have the advantage, just based on content versus delivery. Much less the ridiculous laws that exist that favor dramatically the content providers over the delivery devices. Again, let's not have the government decide how the marketplace is going to go. Let's have the market players decide how the marketplace is going to go, because they know it a whole lot better than the government does.